First, we'll have the proposition leader, Dia Paris, and she will speak for 7 minutes. After which, we'll have 1 minute break for the judges.
Bill Gates once said, "Internet is the town hall for the global village of tomorrow." Madam Moderator, esteemed judges, opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, we, the proposition, will argue that the Internet does positively enhance the quality of education. For the purpose of the argument, the following terms must be defined. According to the OxfordDictionary.com, education is the acquisition of knowledge and skill which develops our society. Enhance, to intensify, increase, or further improve the quality or value or extent of. Internet, a global computer network providing a variety of information and communication facilities consisted of interconnecting networks using standardized communication protocols. To properly address this argument, I will deal with the role that Internet plays in meeting society's need for a constant, continual education. I will deal with accessibility of information, relevancy of education, Internet inspiring entire societal development, and my secondary will expand on these points. He will also elaborate more on the flexibility of the Internet and the economic advantage possible through further incorporation of this Internet into all traditional education forums and those modern ones that are developed specifically because of the Internet. The foundation of our argument today is that education is not limited to one era of our life, but a constant education is critical for the continued success of every society and every individual in that society. There is no such thing as ever being completely educated. This is a lifelong process. We understand that the backbone of education is communication. The Internet is just a platform that has the potential to host mass communication and therefore capable of continual, constant mass education. You may ask, what is the link between continual education and the Internet? Ladies and gentlemen, it's elementary. The backbone of education is and will always be communication. Therefore, in order to meet society's demand for a constant mass education, we need a tool. And the best tool that we have today is the Internet. Take, for example, remember the weather watch bulletins on Instagram and Twitter? Information on routine topics such as HIV, gastro, and Chick B were made available not by nation, but by the Internet. All of that was education. However, the Ebola outbreak in Africa sparked worldwide hysteria. This was fueled by the lack of information and the fear of death. The use of Internet by WHO, World Health Organization, United Nations, and other major governments helped to curtail this pattern of fear and mistrust. Yes, your government using the Internet as a tool capable of mass communication and mass education. In seconds, your smartphone, tablet, and laptop transformed into an educational channel, and wherever you were became an educational forum. Mind you, it was not in a school. Imagine if you had to rely on the daily printed newspaper to tell you about the imminent flood that you have to avoid on your way home. It simply cannot work. The prevalence of the internet. The current prevalence and role of the internet is undeniable. Over 3 billion people were users of the internet in 2014, according to lifestats.com. These were users that had extreme wealth of information at their fingertips. I cannot stress enough how literally internet is everywhere, anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. It's a university in your hands, a news station in your hands, a boardroom in your hands. It allows educational forums to spring up at any time during lunchtime or a coffee break. Although internet is given a bad reputation, it may be the greatest supplier of communication since man was given vocal cords. Why would you want to exclude this from educating our society? Not that you even could. It has become a part of our everyday lives, from the very social media that we adore, to your smart TVs and even your radios. Yes, believe it, your radios use internet. It has become the very way of life. Can't you see? We no longer implement the internet, but we build our lives around it. People use sight to express their feelings and to give insight on topics that may affect a whole region, whether it be through a normal video log or an artistic piece. Where it would have only reached probably 800 people in a national forum, it can now reach millions with the use of the internet. This is the sort of impact that the internet can have, and that is why it's the best option we have to continually educate our people. My next point is societal development. The internet, by its nature, facilitates the transmission of information, with senders of the information being potential teachers and the receivers being students. With almost no cap on our speech, or on our freedom of speech, imagine the vast possibilities of society development. I am not the only person that realizes this, neither are only us on this side. The radical, controversial government of Syria has strict regulations against bloggers and those who use the internet on the whole. However, it's the strict restrictions against information, against opposing their government, which pose a threat. Perpetrators of said laws could face loss of rights to blog. Therefore, to educate their fellow citizens or peers, they would have to pay fines or even face jail time. The Syrian government knows that the educational power and the internet is namely social media, can cause an entire revolution against them. This is just proof how powerful an education is and how much more impactful it can be coupled with the internet. As I close, in the 21st century, we now have the most modern communicative invention. As we stand at this crossroad, we look for a surety, more than a promise, a reliable source. What I can and will do is echo the late Steve Jobs. I quote, "Technology is nothing. What is important is that you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them." I'm a nation.
Okay, now we will have the leader of the opposition, and they're going to speak for 7 minutes, after which we'll have 1 minute silence.
Good afternoon, Madam Moderator, judges, and my fellow debaters. We are here to discuss whether or not internet use can positively enhance the quality of education. I am here to tell you today that it most certainly cannot, as the introduction of the internet into our educational systems has brought with it more negatives than positives. The internet is a dangerous place for young minds to wander and places financial strain upon not only parents, but the government. It also negatively impacts the health of our students and distracts us from learning and enables them to cheat, which in turn affects the quality of their education. Education is defined as the process of learning or teaching according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Not .com, but the actual book. It includes information about training in a particular subject area. And when me and my team, and I'm sure the rest of you thought of education, we were thinking it in that way, where you can receive it to enable your occupation, help you get occupation, and that is what we're thinking. I will ask you all to bear this definition in mind as it sets the parameters for not only the debate, but my speech. When we say education, we mean the kind that takes place in the classroom, in a physical context, face to face. Physical context not only limits it to the classroom, but at home, in the courtyard, at play. Robin Alexander, a professor at the University of Cambridge, spoke at the UNESCO World Conference, and his speech was entitled Global Monitoring Report, Teaching and Learning, Achieving Quality for All. And an article came out sometime later commenting on this. Both article and speech made me painfully aware that there is no set definition of what the quality of education is, yet many associate it with equity in education, which focuses on achievement, fairness, and opportunity. Although many persons, including Alexander, thinks that this can be quality, it is not. As we can see, for certain people who are not socially or economically inclined to receive much education, the quality of the education they receive matters. Perhaps the proposing thing thinks that internet use can bridge some type of gap between equity and equality in education. But I am telling you that it cannot. And as the proposition leader stated, the internet is everywhere. It is in my classroom, where I'm trying to learn, and it constantly makes one voice phone ping so loudly that it distracts the whole entire class. So as you can see, the internet is already inhibiting our learning. Is the good quality of education determined by a modern, computer-filled classroom, complete with internet access, where frankly children are dying to get out of? Or is it in places where there are hardly any resources, no technology, no internet access, where frankly children are dying to get into? I do believe it is the latter. For quality is not tied to or is the result of using the internet and technological devices. In Barbados, in the year 2000, US $213 million has been spent on launching EduTech. EduTech is aimed at implementing computers into secondary and primary schools, equipping the schools with internet access. I am sure many persons thought that this would have enhanced the quality of education, so much so that we would have had so many academic scholars in the island that schools like Combermere would have to expand just to house the majority of the nation's students. But it did not. A study done by M. Peral and S. Kyoko, which examined the effects of EduTech in the island, measured school quality by a 3-year moving average of students' performance at the Barbados Secondary Schools Education Examination. Some of the following comments were generated from this study. Performance of students is somewhat lower in the post-EduTech period, and I'm quoting. The pre-post EduTech figures do not, however, suggest large effects of EduTech. In other words, the government wasted their money. And if you were wondering, the last comment was just my opinion. According to the New York Times, there is a Silicon Valley school that does not use technology or internet to give students a good quality of education. In fact, they believe that internet and school does not mix. Many of the students' parents work for companies like Google, Yahoo, and even eBay. It poses the question, why do children of persons who rely so heavily on the internet for their income send their children to schools where it is frowned upon? Perhaps share the same view as Paul Thomas, who was a former teacher and associate professor at the Furman University. He says, another approach to learning will always benefit children. Teaching is a human experience, and technology is a distraction where we need literacy, numeracy, and critical thinking. Yes, a member of the proposition did stand and say that it encouraged communication. I am sure that all of us know that this is not true. LOL. CYC. BRB. All of these things do not enhance the quality of education. At this school, where there is no internet, 94% of students graduate. And quoting this directly from the source, between 1994 and 2004, attended prestigious colleges like Oberlin, Berkeley, and Vassar. Clearly, they have received a good quality education without the internet. An NBC column, which examined the comments of Annie Murphy Paul, who is a magazine journalist on the biological and social sciences, and a graduate from Yale University, posted the following. Multitasking while doing academic work, which is very, very common among young people, leads to spottier, shallower, less flexible learning. Because assignments inevitably take longer when learners split their time between tasks. All that task switching wears out the brain and makes learners more tired and less competent. Most importantly, several studies have shown that information while learned partially distracted from use of the internet is often quickly forgotten, so the learning is tragically shallow. Madam Speaker, we give children the internet as a tool to gather information. We automatically assume that they know how to use this tool. We assume that they know what to put into search engines, but we are wrong. And in closing, Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that we have made the biggest assumption of all. The internet can never, will never, and will never enhance the quality of the education that a child living in Barbados or the world could receive. Thank you.
We will now have the proposition seconder who will speak for 5 minutes, after which we will have 1 minute silence.
Good afternoon. I rise to support my most honorable leader and forge ahead where he has charged me. To support our argument, I will discuss the flexibility of the internet and the economic advantage accessible through further incorporation of the internet into our lives generally and traditional educational forms. The internet is a vast communications network. One can literally access any information once it is online. This is to the extent where, as parents-to-be, you can now go online and look for information on how to raise your child. What we must not forget, however, is the sentiment that education is an ever-continuing process for the development of the human mind. The internet's vastness and capabilities to educate do not discriminate at any level, whether by age, learning capability, or learning style. Because of its nature, the internet is constantly attempting to adapt to its users' needs as the user guides his or her experience. As individuals, we are all different and have preferred learning styles. This is not a problem for the internet, as it incorporates and encompasses all of these aspects. For example, visual learners will relate to blogs and reports. Auditory learners will relate to videos and audio recordings, whereas kinesthetic learners will relate to projects they find online. As stated before, the internet is a vast network of communication. We are now being exposed to multiple points of view from persons around the world. As it pertains to the quality of information, however, whereas you would have to wait at least 2 years for a revised edition of a book with minor changes, it would only take a writer a few minutes or even a couple of seconds to upload major changes to an online document. Given the vastness of this great and powerful network called the internet, we have to accept the fact that school is no longer a specific place where one goes to learn, but rather the internet opens up the potential of almost any place to be a classroom. We must also note that the primal definition of the word teacher has also changed. Because we are now using the internet and technological devices, we have effectively become our own teachers. As we are in a recession, we must focus on our finances. The cheapest tablet available at the Quartz General Store is $399.99, a mere fraction of the cost of all the textbooks for a student in any given year. Does this not show that use of the internet is economically feasible? Now, imagine what education could be like with the widespread use of internet. Some sites that do facilitate quality education are Khan Academy. How about Trident Learning, or even Edmodo? Added to this, the use of the internet has now become so prominent that the Caribbean Examination Council is now correcting their CSET and CAPE exams online. I therefore find the belief that the use of the internet not positively enhancing quality of education utter folly. Realistically, has it not already been involved in the process of education? According to educationworld.com, 63% of students' marks in 55 schools across the United States have improved with use of the internet. In case you still don't understand, my worthy opponents will say that the internet does not positively enhance the quality of education. So let me hit closer to home to refute this point. I will therefore assume that the opposition is familiar with a network called ClassJump, which your teachers use to help you, the students, with your class and homework assignments. Not to mention you more than likely use the internet to help you build your oppositional argument. In conclusion, the use of the internet has been enhancing the quality of education before, and it will continue to do so. This fact, cannot be denied. Not only does it make information available en masse, but it is also more economically feasible than purchasing hundreds upon hundreds of textbooks. Madam Moderator.
Next, we will have the opposition seconder who will speak for 5 minutes and then a minute set.
Good afternoon, Madam Moderator, fellow members of the opposition, worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as my leader has rightfully mentioned, with internet usage there also comes along the aspect of economics. One has to worry about the monthly costs that having the internet actually entails. One also has to worry about the technological devices which are required for actually accessing the internet. If we introduce internet usage into our learning institutions, who will be financing it? The government, who has already been cutting the school's budget. Now, look at it this way. In the Combermere school or this year, there are 119 students. If each is supplied with a Lenovo 15.6-inch laptop, one of the cheapest advertised at Quartz on this moment, which costs $699.90 Barbados dollars. That cost already, when you think about the whole interior, the total cost is $83,288.10 for that year alone. Then when multiplied by 22 being the total number of secondary schools in Barbados, that cost has already escalated to $1,832,338.20. If instead we use like the seconder pointed out, the iView 16 gigabit 8-inch tablets, one of the cheapest on the court's page, as he has mentioned, which costs the same Barbados $399.99. The estimated price for the government would be $1,047,173.82. Though the tablet choice is cheaper, it is still expensive, especially when we realize that that is only for 1 year group, not the entire school system. Now let's multiply that number by 5 or 6. This would only be putting unnecessary financial strain on the government and taxpayers. Another issue is deterioration of internet users' health. Not only do users sometimes experience migraines and headaches from being on the internet over a prolonged period of time, but also the radiation given off from these technological devices prove bad for health. If students are unhealthy, unwell, or ill, it will show in their studies, as they will be unable to function at their full potential. Health is described as the complete physical, mental, and social wellness of the being. A study led by Betsy Sparrow, an assistant professor of psychology, Columbia, has shown that the internet use encourages memory loss, as we have the internet to remember for us, so we don't have to do so for ourselves. If one relies heavily on the internet, one risks the chance of becoming internet addicted, which, like all addictions, will take a toll on the addict's social health. I believe that most of you will agree with me when I say that more often than not, even though education is imparted to the students, more often than not, the students believe student social life takes top priority, intentionally or not. If a student no longer cares about his or her social life, well then who are we to think that they're going to care much for their education? We can then say that frequent internet use lessens student standards, which would eventually lead to the demoralizing of students. And as a result, the students will start to devalue the quality of their education and their education. Thank you.
I will now invite the opposition to ask 5 questions to the leader or the seconder of the proposition, and this should last for 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, moderators, audience. My first question is, what measures will be put in place to protect the fine line between education and the internet becoming a crutch and creating laziness in our educational system for teachers and also students? This question goes to the second speaker.
Could you please repeat the question?
What measures will be put in place to protect the fine line between education and the internet becoming a crutch and creating laziness in our educational system for teachers and also students?
Okay, thank you. When this whole debate and debacle boils down, it actually just comes down to not only the responsibility of the students, but the responsibility of the teachers. However, if the educational institution is worried about this being a major problem, there are many programs which can be used to regulate internet usage in the school property and during class time.
Correcting papers and finding out points for debate do not measure the quality of education. How relevant is the internet to the quality of education and to Barbados' educational system within and outside of schools? This goes to the second speaker.
Keeping in mind that the world is moving off of a paper-based database onto a more digital platform, what we have to keep in mind as a small island developing state, as we go more so onto the global platform now, we have to keep more so in touch with what the bigger countries are doing. So as they have almost completely transitioned to a digital platform, and we are just beginning, we must pick up the pace and transfer as quickly as possible, because keeping in mind the fact that if you leave Barbados with a paper-based education and go overseas, you're not going to do very well.
My third question. How will teachers monitor students and their use of the internet to ensure that they enhance the quality of education and prevent cheating? This goes to the second speaker.
As stated in my previous answer, there are many programs that you can download and load onto computers and technological devices belonging to the schools, which can and will regulate the usage of the internet on the school network and on the school property. You can actually erect firewalls that will stop students from accessing social media and unsavory websites, thus regulating and controlling what students can and cannot access while at school.
Just to remind you that it's 5 questions or 3 minutes. So if the 3 minutes is up and you haven't answered the 5 questions, your time is up. I will now invite the cross-examiner from the proposition to ask the opposition, the leader opposition or seconder, 5 questions, and this should last for 3 minutes.
My first question is to the leader, and is, with the internet, all 3 basic types of learners, auditory, kinesthetic, and visual, are accommodated. Without the internet, what else can accommodate the 3 basic types of learners to the same standard?
May you please?
With the internet, all 3 basic types of learners, auditory, kinesthetic, and visual, are accommodated. Without the internet, what else can accommodate the 3 basic types of learners to the same standard?
Within the current educational system, there are the use of diagrams. Students can listen to their teachers effectively and properly, and take in the information and try to get as much as they can within the classroom setting or at home. Any place can be a classroom, and that is what we need to understand.
Given the fact that teachers such as Mr. Bryan, Mrs. Calendar, and Ms. Griffith from the Combermere School are known to use the website ClassJump to post information regarding schoolwork, how can you as a Combermere student stand and say that you have not experienced the way in which the internet has enhanced the quality of education? My question is for the seconder.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Given the fact that teachers such as Mr. Bryan, Mrs. Calendar, and Ms. Griffith from Combermere are known to use the website ClassJump to post information regarding schoolwork, how can you as a student of Combermere stand and say that you have not experienced the way in which internet has enhanced the quality of education?
Well, you see, right, the thing about ClassJump is that all that is the posting of homework or projects. You can easily go to school, listen to what the teacher is saying, and then find out what it is that they're talking about, find out the homework from at school or whatever. You don't need to rely. How does that affect the quality? I do not understand.
Okay. If the internet is such a distraction and negatively impacts education so seriously, how would you account for its current, heavy and increasing incorporation into our educational focus? Question is to the seconder.
Now, again, can you repeat?
If the internet is such a distraction and negatively impacts education so seriously, how would you account for its current, heavy and increasing incorporation into our educational focus?
Well, that's because persons are becoming dependent on the internet. As I said before, the internet can do everything for us, so we are relying on it doing these things for us. We're becoming internet addicted. We aren't thinking for ourselves.
Okay. The internet allows access to information and education from anywhere in the world. What do you suggest that could substitute the internet in terms of accessibility? The internet allows access to information and education from anywhere in the world. What do you suggest that could substitute the internet in terms of accessibility? My question is for the seconder.
Well, a proper teacher, honestly.
Okay, Madam Chair, she hasn't answered the question. I'll move on. As stated by my seconder, students' marks improved in 55 schools over the United States. Time? Okay.
We will now have the summary presented by the opposition, and this should be for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon once again. I'll begin my summary by saying quality, quality, quality. What is quality? There is no clear definition for what quality is, how it can be measured, and how it can be achieved. Quality, quality, quality. Yes, notes are posted on ClassJump by several teachers at any and all institutions across not only the region, but internationally. And I would have to ask, how does this affect quality? Quality, quality, quality.
There is an objection being raised by the
Madam Moderator, I believe that that is a rebuttal, and rebuttals are not allowed in the summary of in this.
Remember that as long as the issue has been raised under the seconder, then the summary is allowed to touch on it. It is not new material to the debate.
I will continue.
We have stopped the clock and we're at 36 seconds of your time.
Thank you very much. I will continue. They tried. They tried. The physical face-to-face educational system has been weakened by the internet, and we are using it as a way to repair it. How can we do this? How can we even think of using the cost for something to fix it? We have shown you that the internet does not enhance the quality of education. In fact, we have shown you that there's no such thing as quality. We have told you that this argument has taken, we have told you, yet this argument on whether the internet can enhance the quality of education has been done countless times, and it has been done over and over and over again. We have told you that the only true education is done in a physical context, and if the internet is used, it places financial strain upon the government, families, with negative effects upon the health and the child. Quality, we are looking at quality. The accessibility of information can never be seen as the quality of the educational system, and that is what we need to understand. The accessibility of information is not the quality of the educational system within this island, and that is what we need to understand. It is not. I'm getting passionate. It seems as if some people cannot understand, and this is not a rebuttal. It isn't a point, but it has been shown. It seems as if some people cannot understand what the MOOC is trying to ask. So I'll repeat it. Internet use can positively enhance the quality of education. The quality of education. I understand what quality is. I do not mistake it for the grades you receive or the accessibility of information. In conclusion, I'd like to say that we have proven that already in the island, there is no way that education, that the internet use has helped the quality of education that you, and anyone else received or has received in this school. Thank you.
I will now invite the proposition to give their summary for 3 minutes.
A great man once said, technology is a good slave, but a dangerous master. Our position remains firm. We believe that the internet plays an integral role in providing quality education for our people. We stated with the utmost clarity that the internet is a tool and merely a platform of mass communication of information. We showed how internet incorporated with education gives people a voice, and how the internet keeps education relevant in this fast-paced world. We examined the accessibility of the internet and the wealth of information at our disposal. We, the proposition, view education as the breath of life which our societies respire. We believe that the general populace will be able to educate and be educated anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. We on this side are of strong belief in education in its purest form. Anything that is learnt is education. From current affairs, rocket science, or just how to hopscotch, it is all education. My second also alluded to the fact that education is flexible and can be accessed at any time. We explained that it's not only better in terms of quality of education, but the implementation of internet in its school setting is also economically feasible. This only adds to the point that internet is superior. From the beginning of time, we have used the best technology that we had available to elucidate, educate, and entertain. Technological evolution is by no means new to humans. We encountered this when the printing press was created, and we had to shy away from our skilled calligraphy. Although at this time it seemed far-fetched, that is what gave us the books that we have today. So who is to say what we will be forfeiting if we do not embrace this internet that we possess? Centuries ago, the only way information could be given was by a teacher under a tree. At that point, all they had was speech. And they used it. They didn't say that it was not good enough. They used their speech. So what is stopping us from using what we have? I fear that we as a people are mistaken and do not believe of education in its purest, richest form. As Albert Einstein said, education is not about learning facts. It's about thinking. It's about teaching the mind to think. End quote. Ladies and gentlemen, I reiterate, not only can internet enhance education, but it has enhanced education, is enhancing education, and will continue to enhance the quality of education. Madam Moderator.
Before we give the results, as will be done by the moderator, I need to tell you some learning points as a Toastmaster I feel is important that I share with you. The essence of a good debate is always about your points, yes. But the secondar's responsibility as well is to cement what has been said before with data. And I can show on every one of my notes, I can know every point you have made with regards to source. But at no time do you tell me what is your source, where is your source. So you say things like, Martin Luther King says, when, at what point, or you tell me about statistics, 3 million, where can I go find it? None of the teams, none document your source. So when you're quoting professor whatever, you need to say this publication or at this particular UNESCO meeting dated the 15th of June 2014. Okay? And that's for both teams. I can agree that debating is about passion too. But let me tell you that hitting the lectern in passion is great. Hitting the lectern because you're nervous is not so good. And we judges can tell the difference between passion and nervousness. So we say to you, find your key in how to control your nervousness. And be careful that in being nervous, it does not affect your enunciation and it does not affect your grammar. That is important. And worse yet, make sure that it does not affect your speed of delivery because it takes away from the impact of your delivery. I think that was it. I didn't have anything more. Message, speed. My biggest point is sources. And, gentlemen and lady debaters, CTIME, I admit that you're going to suffer point loss because of time overlap, which was done by both the first persons. So technically the teams not to one another because they went over here. But it's important to measure your debate. You are the first person. I can understand if the second or the third person go over, but not the position number one. So I caution you, yes, you might be able to afford to lose points, but ensure that the other team is going to give you that room that you can afford to keep losing 5 points for every 30 seconds. So be very careful, guys, of your practicing. There's a new feature I learned the other day called deliberate practice, and I want you to do that. You should be timing your presentation, and that's position number one. But as a good Toastmaster, I must tell you that the debate was so interesting. I especially love a couple of the debaters in terms of their presentations, the manner in which they have handled themselves. And I say, keep up the good work, both schools, and I think you will see some interest. And I want everybody to be here for the final debate. This is going to be
the moment you've all been waiting for. With 1,006 points, the St. Michael's School. With 930 points, the Combermere School. So the winner of today's debate, the St. Michael's School.